Hi, my name is Cheryl Miller. I'm the founder of the Brussels-based Digital Leadership Institute and co-head of the European Union Delegation to Women 20, the official stakeholder engagement group to the G20 process. And I'd like to thank Navindra and the Asian Network team for inviting me to contribute to this important event, as well as ERIA and ADB Seeds, the organizations behind the conference, and this panel in particular on ensuring a safer and ethical digital world. I've had the opportunity to work on this question of digital equity and digital inclusion for over a decade, including at the G20 and UN and European Parliament. And I can say that still one of the most intransigent problems that we face in terms of creating a safe and ethical digital world is that half of the global population is clearly not on board in designing and building the digital society. And this problem is being compounded by the fact that the digitalization itself is growing by magnitudes, and then that we are running behind in terms of keeping up, keeping ahead of the regulations and guidelines that are required to keep that environment safe and ethical. So for me, really two critical answers to that issue are number one, that the safety of girls and women be on the critical path for building the digital society, but also that girls and women themselves become the designers and creators of that digital society. So fortunately, this year in the New Delhi Leaders Declaration of the G20, the leaders of the G20 nations committed to having the gender digital divide by 2030. And this, I think, is a critical first step in ensuring that there are programs in those largest economies of the world that are specifically targeting girls and women as beneficiaries to increase their participation in building the digital society. And I would say that that's a really critical success factor, is that the women themselves are target beneficiaries of development funding, that it not just be for closing the digital divide, but specifically for the gender digital divide, including as promoting women as deep tech starters, as IT experts, where, for example, in Europe, this number has flatlined over the past decade, and we only have, despite the digital disruption, 17% of IT experts in the workforce being women. And I'm sure these numbers translate to other parts of the world. Also, as tech entrepreneurs, that we have optimistic figures of 1 in 5 digital starters or tech starters are female, where I think in reality the number is closer to 1 in 10. So there are key policy challenges in terms of increasing participation of girls and women as builders of the digital society, and then also as the the communities most at risk of this increasing digitalization, and where we really need guidelines that don't address women and gender as a secondary issue, but really put those topics on the critical path of building the solutions and the guidelines that are going to deliver for us a more safe and ethical digital world. Because as we know, girls and women are disproportionately and negatively impacted in online environments, but also in terms of their human rights to having digital access are not ensured. So there are a lot of dimensions to this issue, but I think the most important is that when we discuss today what the answers to the challenges are, that we are sure to include the question of the girls and women and our most vulnerable societies, because indeed this is the only way that we will be able to have a safe and ethical digital world.